following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on a break!
With Nick Eatman, David Hellman, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Wednesday, February 16th, 2022, Season 17, Episode number 104. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We've got a lot we're going to talk about today. We're going to finish up our conversation on the salary cap. We started that last week. There will be more questions I have for these guys about guys that could be here and could be not here and the amount of money it'll take to do both. Before we get into that, though, I did want to start first with a little opener here. And obviously, we usually would give everybody an opportunity to talk about a sports topic from the previous week. But I think this week we got to talk about Super Bowl. It was obviously a game that I thought it was a good game. I thought it was a fun game. I know some people I've talked to were like, it was kind of boring. But I thought it was good. It was good defense. What were you guys' thoughts on the game just in general?
Logan Wilson did nothing wrong. The refs completely botched the end of that game. It was not defensive holding. They had called 3 flags all the way through that game, and the subsequent flags were penalties. Yeah. But that was not. And the Rams still would have had a 4th down to try to score or convert. And I thought the refs completely botched what would have been otherwise a really dramatic moment. You know, to give the Rams 1st and goal on a BS call like that, I just thought tainted it. Obviously, I'm a little biased. I wanted the Bengals to win.
Just in full disclosure.
Full disclosure. Yeah, I mean, if
you had a dog in the
if
fight.
I had really wanted the Rams to win, I would have had a reason why that was okay.
Yeah.
You know, Ramsey got face masked on the long touchdown to Higgins. I get it, but I just thought that kind of put a damper on.
You have tattooed his face on you, on your body.
Joe?
They won the
No,
Super Bowl.
I'm not tattooing another person on me. That's a lot.
Bad idea.
That's a lot.
Unless it's like mom. Like mom can get that kind of love
Maybe
if
mom.
you're going to go there. But other than that,
Maybe
like,
mom.
I just don't.
But I'm really happy for Odell. Really happy for Andrew Whitworth. Way to go.
Yeah. There are less you guys on both squads. So
Yeah, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, we got guys. Yeah. What do you think, Amber?
You know what? Some people didn't find it fun, and I get it. But it was to me, it was fun to see a different team on the Super Bowl, and it allows you to, in your mind, be like, okay, well, it could happen. We can see ourselves in there someday. You know, it's doable.
doing
The
this.
Bengals got there.
We're
I
doing
was
this.
actually going to ask that question. Like, did you come out of that game feeling better, worse, or about the same as what you did at the end of the season? Like, man, maybe I could see the Cowboys here, or I can't see I can't even fathom the Cowboys being here. Like, did it change anything for you?
To me, it was a mixture of both. Because
Okay.
on one hand, it's like, okay, yes, it's absolutely doable. But on the other hand, it's like, damn, I feel like this was the year. You know, the Cowboys had shown so many things. Obviously not at the end of the year, but they had shown so much potential. And I really felt that this was our year if there was ever going to be a year, and it did not happen. So personally, it was a mixture of both. But once again, you talk about defense, and defense is winning championships for you. And we saw that with Aaron Donald, and it was just like, damn, okay, we definitely need another step up on this defense. And I truly believe they were getting close to getting there, but we need a badass defense.
Nick?
And a good quarterback.
I mean, I thought it was the best ever. I mean, just a collection of talent.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, you're just talking about like
to start with
different
Dre,
star. Yeah.
and then
There we
Snoop,
go. That's
and
okay.
then Eminem comes in, and 50 Cent.
I'm all in on that.
I mean, I just thought it was amazing,
It
and I don't
was.
care what people say. I mean, I was arguing with people on Twitter, not really arguing, because I said it was the best ever, and people said I was wrong, and I told them I wasn't asking. I mean.
Right.
I wasn't
My
asking
opinion.
you. This is, I mean, wasn't a question mark like best ever? Like, no, best ever.
Yeah.
Because Dave knows this. I mean, all that is in my wheelhouse of in the early 90s hip hop.
See, I think of that as more my wheelhouse. I mean,
whatever. That's what made it great. It was a combination of both.
stealing
Not. I mean, Dre and Snoop, no. But the era, like, they didn't play early 90s stuff. Like, he was playing stuff from 2001, which is when I was in middle school, high school.
I loved it.
And I'm just saying, and I mean, 50 Cent in the club is like,
that's definitely
and obviously Kendrick Lamar. I mean, that's really my wheelhouse. Right, yeah. But I mean, we can share it. That's fine.
That's true. I thought it was awesome. As for the game, the Cowboys to win it, you've got to be like, I mean, Matthew Stafford. I mean, look how many times they almost didn't get there. They almost just lost that whole thing against the Rams. And then the 49ers were in control, and then the Bengals were in control. So to win a Super Bowl, you've got to go 3 or 4 times. You've got to be, like, perfect and make all the plays against good teams. And the Cowboys only made the plays against a good team once, and that was the Patriots, before the Patriots even got it going. They were kind of bad before that. So they never really beat a good team playing well all year, and you have to do it 3 or 4 times. So I don't know if they're really that close.
And not only that, I think that game to me showed that you got to be good, well, really good. You also have to have some lucky moments. That call, Dave, I think was a lucky moment for the Rams, because that was a very questionable call. I'm not going to say it was a wrong call, because I think there's a case that technically it probably could have been a holding, but I do think that's a lucky break for the Rams. And I think in any team that's going to win a championship, along the way you're going to have some lucky breaks that just are not about you. It's just a lucky break that happens, and that's how you get where you get.
Stafford threw a duck to Jaquiski Tart in the NFC title game that got dropped, and if it doesn't, you're sitting here saying, like, the Rams did all this and they fell so short, and this is why you don't go all in and do all this crazy stuff. And
imagine the narrative.
Now we're building a narrative around how the Niners got it right. And I mean, you can always try to learn stuff from the Super Bowl teams, but I think you got to take it with a grain of salt too, because it takes so many breaks to pull that off.
It absolutely does.
I want to say, like, not to be glass half empty, but I think Cowboy fans by and large are still pretty pissed off.
Oh, yeah.
And rightfully so. And so when I see the Bengals in the Super Bowl, it actually makes me feel dejected. Because I love Joe Burrow, but I'm just like, this is not a Super Bowl team. Like, they got there with a point margin of 13 points in the playoffs, like by the skin of their teeth. Joe got sacked like 18 times in the playoffs. That's not an exaggeration.
No, that's right.
And I'm just like, these guys, I'm all credit to them. They got there, but like, that is not what a Super Bowl team traditionally looks like. And I just look at that and I'm like, Cowboys can't pull this out of their butts once in 26 years. Even they've had great teams make the playoffs. They've kind of snuck into the playoffs a few times. Doesn't matter. They've never caught that lightning in a bottle when they needed to. And I'm just like, if these guys can do it, it's a matchup of 2 4 seeds. That hasn't happened in forever.
Yeah. And
we're sitting here wondering why a team that's been the 1, 2, 3 seed can't pull it off. It's just like, my God, man. So, like, it's almost more statistically improbable that you don't ever string something together than it is that you do.
Because the other teams that are in the same boat with you, they're teams that have just been traditionally bad. Like, they don't make playoff appearances, right? That's the part that's weird, is when you look at the Cowboys, they're an anomaly from the standpoint of a team that regularly has been in the mix, but for whatever reason, for 26 years, hasn't won a championship, hasn't even been to a championship game. Like, it tells me, like, they've been just unlucky. They don't get those kind of breaks for whatever moment. And in those moments where a break here or a break there makes a difference, they don't get those breaks. And quite frankly, they haven't been good enough for whatever reason.
You can look around, too. Like, the cruelty of it is, like, the Bengals are in that club right now. But the Panthers stand out to me. The Buccaneers, Tampa's a little different because they signed Tom Brady. But even franchises that you typically think of as like kind of sorry, like the Panthers are either pretty bad or they're good enough to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And they've made it twice over the last 20 years,
right?
Which is 2 more times than the Cowboys have. And you're just like, they can't do it either way. They can't be dominant the way that these perennial playoff contenders are, and they can't pull a rabbit out of their hat either. And it sucks. It's frustrating.
Yeah. Nick, what did you think about DeMarcus Ware not getting into the Hall of Fame?
Well, I was surprised, obviously, until I've called around and figured out like what's going on, and I realized that the committee is making a big change, and they took a stance this year to let everyone know that they wanna differentiate between first ballot Hall of Famers and Hall of Famers. And they made a point this year to get some other guys in there that they thought was deserving, and they didn't put DeMarcus in that category. And so It's unfortunate because it was going to be a bad Hall of Fame class if he was in there. Yeah. And for him not to put it in there like that, I thought it was terrible, But I just don't understand the difference. If you're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer. But then again, this is coming from the person like, when I graduated high school, it was just a cap and gown. But then some people have like a little yellow tassels, to show that they were with honors. I mean, I didn't have that, obviously. I'm just like, what's the difference? I mean, we're all graduating here, but like these people are honors. I feel like that's what this is. It was like, well, you have a really platinum gold jacket. You just have a gold jacket.
Platinum gold.
I think, which is really disappointing. I thought he deserved to be in. I was honestly shocked. Like I watched it live when they brought them all out, and they cut to the presenter first, and they cut to Emmett, and I was like, okay, Emmett's introducing somebody. It's got to be DeMarcus Ware, and it was like a ref or something. And then they got.
I was like, are you kidding?
When they got to the end, I was like, I still haven't heard DeMarcus's name. Like it took probably 30 seconds for me to finally accept that he wasn't getting called. Having said all of that, like to your point. If you're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer, and I guarantee you that was the committee's mindset in the opposite direction. And they're like, he'll get in next year. What's the difference? These guys might not get in ever. And I think that's what we just saw. They're like, they cleared the backlog. They were like, these guys have been stuck for a while. People have been arguing on behalf of Leroy Butler and Tony Baselli is another one. Like people have been arguing about these guys for a decade. Yeah. And I think they were like, and you can disagree with me if you want, but the committee was like, they're deserving. Let's get them in. DeMarcus Ware will be in. And it was validated. This was just my opinion, and it was validated the next day when Rick Gosselin, who's like the godfather of Hall of Fame voters, he wrote that column, basically. Yeah. Like his column was like, DeMarcus Ware's time is coming. These guys needed to go in. And I'm like, disagree, but okay. Yeah. And so, I don't know. He'll be in next year.
Let's talk about Leroy Butler for a second.
Yeah.
Because this is actually...
Mixed feelings on that.
Yeah, but this is actually
you should be happy.
It's a good thing.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's why they have the mixed feelings.
Yeah, he's not a better player than Darren Woodson. He never has, never has been. I mean, never will be, obviously. But he wasn't. He wasn't in the same category. But they voted him, those voters voted him an all-decade team for the 90s. So... He had to go in before Woodson. So if Woodson's ever going to get in, John Lynch had to get in, Leroy Butler had to get in their mind. And so now this opens the door, I think, for Woodson more than you would think it would.
It's the most confident I've ever felt that Woody's going to get in.
Yeah.
Maybe not in 2023, but I think you can grease those wheels now, which is cool.
It's just weird for me. I look at the list of guys, and I think – particularly, there were two names on this list this year that, to me, are more deserving of the Hall of Fame. And I understand they're trying to get guys in that are deserving, I guess. But I'm always like, take them and put them on a list of best to worst, and then the ones that are the best in that group get to go. Because I think DeMarcus Ware, and I think another travesty was Patrick Willis. Patrick Willis, in the time he played in the NFL, was considered, in my opinion, among the very best linebackers. And there was a period of time there where he was the best linebacker, middle linebacker in the NFL. And to me, that's what a Hall of Famer is. And so I don't really know. Obviously, I'm not in those meetings. I don't know how they talk about all this stuff. But to me, I think so often they get caught up in all the other things. Are these guys backlogged? Do we need to get them in? Like, just make it simple. Who are the best players, and list them out in order of the best players, and the top number of them get in. That to me is the best and most simple way to do this, and do it right.
You know how long we've been doing this show?
17 years.
And I'll tell you, to put it in perspective, we were doing a pre-draft show one time. Before the draft show, we were just doing our show.
Yeah.
And trust me, I'm wrong about a lot of people. But I was like, the Cowboys need to draft Devin Hester in the second or third round. Because
I remember that.
This guy will make a difference. And I think I said third round, and he went in the second round, so that wasn't going to happen. But he
came to my office when he got drafted, like, my guy's gone.
Yeah. Of course, I also was like, I did not want DeMarcus Ware, so I just thought Derek Johnson was a way better pick than DeMarcus Ware, and he was pretty good, but he wasn't.
He was a good player.
He had a good career.
I don't know if I call him a Hall of Famer, but
he's not going to be in the Hall of Fame.
He was a good player.
So.
Devin Hester belongs in the Hall of Fame.
I agree. And again,
worth.
when you talk about it, if you say, man, this guy was the very best at what he did in the time he was in the NFL, then to me that's an easy. Those are the guys that should be first ballot, right? Because like they are guys that were recognized by their peers and by media and whoever else in the time they were playing. They were among the very best in the league every year.
I agree. And I think it gets a little convoluted sometimes, but I also think that's a really hard job because everybody's got an opinion about this. Like, Baselli's been a flashpoint player for years. He only played 91 NFL games, but he's a 3-time All-Pro. And anybody who's familiar with that era, especially like watching the Jags, like anyone will tell you he was the best tackle in football for a 4-year period, which Willis is kind of similar. He only played like 7 years, but he was the absolute best almost the whole time he did it. And so parsing all of that out is tough. So I don't envy those guys, and it's disappointing for Ware, but I'll bet you $20 today he's in at this time next year. So.
Well, I think this time last week, I think we all probably would have made that same bet that he was going to be in, and he wasn't. And so I just hate when they put it off like, oh, he'll get in. I just think if a guy's due and ready, he should be in. Like I just think that you wait the 5 years for that period, and then if you're ready and you're the guy, then you should get in.
He's absolutely got a resume deserving of being first ballot. Jared Allen didn't get in either, did he?
No.
And that's another guy that probably has a first ballot resume, in my opinion.
Maybe.
Not as good as Ware's.
Not as good as Ware's, but you could make the case. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's hard. I think you're right. It's hard when you get to this point because most of the guys that were finalists, you could make an argument, a pretty credible argument that they belong in the Hall of Fame. The question just becomes who gets in what year, and that's why I'm like, just take it in order. Who's the best players? And the best players that year get in. If that means you're never among the best that year, that probably also tells you something that maybe they're not Hall of Famers.
I'll tell you what I'll tell you what I don't like is this bubbling conversation that Stafford's a Hall of Famer now that he won a Super Bowl. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, his career's not over. Maybe he will be by the time it's over, but him winning that game on Sunday does not put him in the Hall of Fame.
Did you hear Richard Sherman?
Yeah, and I agreed with everything he said. Yeah. Like, at no point have you even been one of the 3 best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to get into this conversation of the salary cap. We've got a lot of questions for these guys. We started that last week. We talked about most of the offensive guys. We got a couple offensive guys and some defensive guys we need to get to. I'll do that when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
At AT&T, everyone, new and existing customers, get our best deals on every smartphone. Why? Because you deserve it. For turning your living room into your office and your gym. For teaching Grandma how to video call and teaching her again.
It's the button on your left, Nana. Okay, your other left.
It's not complicated. Everyone deserves something new. So AT&T is giving everyone, new and existing customers, our best deals with every unlimited plan on every smartphone, even the latest ones.
AT&T may temporarily slow data speeds if the network is busy. Restrictions and exceptions may apply.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way.
Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Before there was a draft, you could size up a cowboy by 3 simple factors: the crease in his hat, the bend of his brim, and his unbending attitude. A man's Stetson didn't just protect him from what life threw at him, it projected a rugged, unstoppable spirit. Stetson hats are still American-made with pride right here in Texas. They're still the unofficial crown of all self-respecting cowboys, and Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find a retailer nearest you at stetson.com/cowboys.
Back to the break.
I don't know how you could forget this, but if you have forgotten to get your WrestleMania tickets, remember, it's coming to the stadium. April 2nd, April 3rd, 2-night event at AT&T Stadium. Get your tickets on SeatGeek.com. It's WrestleMania.
Welcome back. It is the second segment of the break live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We're going to get to our conversation on the cap. Before we do that, though,
I don't know if we are.
You think it's gonna this might take a whole segment, and then we'll do a segment on the cap. But we do need to talk a little bit about a conversation that happened yesterday. I think it happened yesterday. Mike McCarthy was on the Rich Eisen show, gave a really interesting, some really interesting comments, and kind of alluded to some stuff that our own Dave Hellman was reporting from the Senior Bowl and his talks with Jerry Jones. So Dave, why don't you kind of walk us through and set this up for us, and then we got some clips we want to talk about.
Yeah, so Mike went on Rich Eisen's show yesterday, and I mean they talked about a bunch of stuff, but Rich Eisen cited our story, which I wrote on DallasCowboys.com.
Didn't give you a shout out by name, which I was kind of disappointed with,
I'm not in it for the clout. I'm in it for the love of the game. But
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you follow the Cowboys, you're probably aware a couple weeks ago at the Senior Bowl, Jerry Jones told myself and Jory Epstein, he said a lot of interesting things, namely that, maybe Dan Quinn would like to be the head coach of the Cowboys one day. Mike McCarthy won't be the head coach forever.
All true, by the way.
All
true.
And I thought Rich Eisen did a great job of framing it.
Yeah.
And that was the point of my story. He said a bunch of things that are factually correct.
Yeah.
Still weird to hear the owner and general manager of a team that just made the playoffs say them out loud. Yeah. Like, you generally don't start talking about the successor for a coach that you're happy with. So anyway, Eisen asked McCarthy about all this. I thought he was shockingly transparent. Beam, if you can cue up the one about DQ, McCarthy, this is McCarthy talking about his relationship with Dan and them talking to each other about people speculating about Dan taking his job.
We talked about him staying here, long before he even took the interview. Now, obviously, when he took the interview, and then this narrative broke out, I think in reflection to the relationship that Dan and I do have, he just said, "Hey, man, if I'm not comfortable with this narrative, if you really feel like I need to take one of these jobs, just be honest with him." And we kind of laughed about it, and I just said, "Dan, 10 to 12 years ago, I'd tell you, please get the hell out of here. I don't want to deal with this." But the reality of it is, I'm about winning. He's about winning. And the best thing for the Cowboys is for Dan Quinn to be here.
Which I love the transparency, first of all. Just like, we've talked about this. And the idea that Dan was like, "Man, I can get out of your hair if this is going to be a problem for you." And McCarthy was like, "I can handle it," which I'm going to remember. I don't know. I feel like that could be famous last words, to be honest with you. Just depending on how the season goes, like,
unless he's okay with whatever outcome, like that might also be part of this. This is a veteran coach. He's won a championship. Like he's coached at two of the most iconic brands in the National Football League. He might be like, "I'm not getting sidetracked by any of this. If at whatever point they make a decision I'm not the coach, I'm good to walk away and be fine with that."
I guess my point is, like, it's easy to say that in February, but if you're 3-4 in October and the noise is just beating down on you from all directions, are you like,
break is just killing you every day?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll do another one, which I thought this was great. Rich Eisen, he was like, have you talked to Jerry Jones about how he kind of dangled your feet over the fire like this? And he was like, "Oh, yeah." And he brought up Dan and Sean Payton by name. So we know now, thanks to Mike McCarthy, that he has talked to Jerry Jones about, so, you're just courting retired coaches for my job? Give this a listen.
We talked about it. We talked about Dan's situation.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about Sean Payton's narrative also. It's been discussed.
You have discussed that with him, huh? What is anything you could share that you have discussed?
Really the conversation was, you and I are in this, back to back, and it's a partnership, and just focus on what we need to do moving forward. And he made some, personal comments about how he feels about it, but that's really for him and I. But I'm very, very comfortable with our relationship and our dialogue. I mean, it's at the end of the day, we both want the same thing, and it's to win the world championship. And definitely the narratives are unusual, but at the end of the day, I think you got to trust the relationships and the communication and the connection that you have.
I'm dying to know what Jerry's personal comments about how he felt about it that Mike didn't want to share were. Yeah. That's my main takeaway from that. Yeah. It's like, what did Jerry say? He's like, winner else.
Yeah, right.
I took that like his opinion about Sean Payton, like whatever Jerry's thoughts about that are. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, you know, as for the Dan Quinn stuff, I think that he has to, you know, if he doesn't go to the Super Bowl or to the championship game, I think he's probably not going to be the coach here anyways. So it doesn't really matter. He's got to get there. That's the way that he keeps his job, is probably to have success that this team hasn't had in so many years. He said the word narrative 100 times. Well, the narrative is that this team hasn't won a Super Bowl or even been to the Super Bowl in 26 years. So
that's the only narrative that matters.
If you fix that, then and the best way to do that is to have Dan Quinn here. So, I mean, I don't know what else. I mean, because he could say, well, go somewhere else. If you don't get it done, then either he comes back or someone else is the coach. So the best way, and he said it, the best way for them to have success is for them both to be here.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this question, and I feel free to say, you know, I really don't feel comfortable answering it, but what do you think was his motivation behind doing this? Because, again, he doesn't have to meet with the media. This was something that he decided
Jerry
to
for
do.
saying it, or Mike
for
Mike, responding to it?
For Mike actually saying, yes, Rich, I'll come on your show, knowing that this would probably be a part of the conversation. And then, two, in sharing at least some of the details of some of this stuff that before, like you said, Dave, we didn't know some. We had not had confirmation of some of this stuff until he mentioned it. And definitely the comment that he made about Dan and him and Dan having the conversation, like, do you really want me to leave? Like, what do you think is the motivation that he's of him actually being that transparent with the media on this?
Probably getting out in front of it. And, well, not really getting out in front of it, because Jerry just lobbed that into the news cycle on his own. But I think it helps or does something to just acknowledge it. And again, that degree of transparency, like, yeah, Dan and I have a good enough relationship that we talked about him maybe even leaving to spare me the problems of this speculation. And I think at the very least, the goal, I think, is at least to dispel the notion that everybody's walking around with a knife behind their back. You know, like Dan Quinn's just waiting for him to turn around so he can get in there and take the job. And so to at least present the idea that there's like a unified front between him and Dan and him and Jerry. Like, yes, I've talked to Jerry about Sean Payton sitting out there. Like, I get it. And to Nick's point, we got to win. So I don't know if it – I know for a fact it doesn't change anything, because people are going to talk about this all year. But to at least kind of be transparent about, like, look, yeah, I got it. This is part of the landscape of coaching the Dallas Cowboys, which good on you for realizing it. I don't know. It at least, like I said, it's not going to make it go away, but at least he's kind of admitting that he's got his blinders off, which – Jason Garrett would never. Jason Garrett would be like, "What are you talking about?" Like, and I don't think that helps anybody.
And stare at you with a smile, like,
yeah. I don't think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
What do you think?
I think that.
I'm not answering that question.
Okay.
I'm because you don't want me to answer it. So trust me.
Now I want you to.
No. Now I'm waiting for the break. I just want to hear the break.
I'm just not answering that of why he did that. Because
why are you being a chicken?
Oh, God. Please stop. Please stop. No, stop. We'll talk about it in the break.
I have my reasons.
No, we will talk about it in the break, and then I will let you guys know, yes, this is appropriate for the air, or maybe it's not appropriate for the air. But, yeah, let's. What do you think, Amber?
Well, I mean, I just
She's about to say exactly what you were thinking, probably.
No, I just think that, I mean, once you start hearing so much things from outside, whether you want to say you don't listen to outside noise or whatever, that's a lie. We're all humans. It happens. It does get to you at some point. So I think it just the combination of different things. I mean, we even whoever watched the NFL Honors, I mean, you heard the joke, and they put Dak Prescott on the spot right there. Yeah. So when it gets to that level of you hearing so many things and you being now kind of turning into a joke, I mean, I would do the same exact thing. I would show up on an interview, speak my mind up, say, you know, we're very open about the situation. I mean, Mike McCarthy is not blind. He's not deaf. He's not dumb either. He sees what's happening. So it just kind of takes the the fire a little bit. It's not going to turn it off or anything, but at least everyone hears it, that he's very well aware of it. He's had those conversations with Jerry Jones, with Dan Quinn. And at the same time, I think it's another thing of like, you know, he's a man. And men are competitive. He's in a very competitive industry, a very competitive sport. So I don't think this is a situation that if ever it came out about Dan Quinn living or whatever, it's like, oh, Mike McCarthy was scared of Dan Quinn taking his job at some point. It's like, no, okay, yeah, of course I'm going to stay here. Of course I'm going to say I can do this job. Of course I'm going to compete and do the best that I can do to show you what I got. And if he fails at it, yes, he got somebody else that can take it from him. But I think that it was great for him to do that, and it was needed rather than go into a whole new season with all this speculation and him getting bombarded every time at a press conference. So I applaud him for actually going out there and saying the things that he did.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think not sometimes, I'm a big believer in all the time. Control what you can control, which also includes the narrative. So if there's something out there that's being talked about that you're a part of and you have an opportunity to get in front of a microphone and tell your thoughts on it, then do that. Speak whatever is the truth that you know it to be, and whatever it is that you want people to know about the situation, be willing to do that, especially in this organization, because as we saw, Jerry got out there and Jerry said what he thought. So if Mike says nothing, then it kind of just gets left as, well, Mike doesn't have any thoughts on this, or he's afraid to say what he's thinking. So I think it was a situation where he could get out there and just kind of and take control of his own narrative to some degree. And it doesn't have to necessarily match up with everybody else. It's just his thoughts on the situation.
Yeah, I thought that's probably the best you could do with a not good situation.
Yeah.
I mean, he said it. We didn't play the clip, but he said earlier in the interview, like, of course I wish we were talking about anything but this.
And he also said, this is not something I've ever dealt with before.
Yeah. Oh.
He made it clear. There were little moments in there where he said things that it seemed like he was making it clear, yeah, this is abnormal. I'm having to adapt to it. But this is the Cowboys. He made that very clear throughout it.
The Packers are certainly one of the biggest, most iconic brands in the league. But I guess the Aaron Rodgers circus last year was a taste for them of what this is like every year.
Yeah.
But by and large, like when even the coach of the Packers, like Mike McCarthy used to just disappear every offseason. Like you have that luxury when you coach the Packers, unless your Hall of Fame quarterback just gets mad about something and turns it into a 6-month news cycle. But that's not the norm in Green Bay.
Yep.
This stuff happens every year.
Right.
So good for him for adapting to it.
You know, another part is that, you know, I said this earlier, that I don't know how close they are to being able to be, you know, perfect to win 3 or 4 games in a row. We haven't seen that. Mm-hmm. But you know, when you look around the NFC and you look at, all right, who's coming back and who has a chance to do something, even with all the free agents that they could lose, the Cowboys should be right there at the end with a chance to go. And that's all you want is a chance. And I think that they have. I think you said it the other day, Dave. When you look around the NFC, there's other teams with bigger question marks than even the Cowboys have. And the Cowboys were a good team last year.
Yeah.
They're going to lose some guys, but they're going to probably keep some. They're going to bring in a couple guys that are going to help them. I just know that. I just know Dan Quinn will do that.
If we're being real,
and
though,
Will McClay, that's the draft.
That's what I find disconcerting. Is like just on paper, I mean, you can roll your eyes if you want to, but on paper, the Cowboys are in as good of a spot to roll over their momentum and be a good team next year. Like, the Packers might lose Aaron Rodgers. The Bucs already lost Tom Brady. The Saints lost Sean Payton. I don't know why I included the Saints in there. They weren't even good last year. Aaron Donald might retire. Sean McVay, there are retirement rumors about him.
Which is weird to me. I heard that and I was like, what?
San Francisco's probably going to trade their starting quarterback, which you can argue how good he actually is, but that they're going to
There'll be differences.
They're going to move forward with a guy that's never really done it before, probably.
Yeah, Minnesota's got a new coach. Like, you start going down the list of all the teams that were in the hunt, in the mix of playoffs, all that stuff. They're all going to have different things. A lot of them will.
But the Cowboys, because of who they are and because of stuff like this, are going to be in this firestorm that is going to make it
more difficult than it needs to be to just focus on getting better, and that's frustrating. But it is what it is. Parcells talked about it when he got here. Yeah. He said, it's working at the Cowboys, coaching, playing. You have to be ready for it. It's the big stage because it's got a big light shining on it at all times. And so there's always going to be extra stuff outside of just football that you got to deal with if you're going to play and coach here.
This goes against I know I'm just shouting into the void. It's not going to happen. But I'd love to see an offseason where the Cowboys lose in the playoffs and then just sort of fade away into the ether for 6 months and come back at training camp like, okay, we're going to try to be better this year. Like it's never going to happen that way. Yeah. Instead, you're going to have the GM and the coach going back and forth about whether he'll be the coach here next year. It's just it's wild.
We're going to take our final break. When we come back, we are going to have some cap talk. We got some guys we need to talk about that will impact the cap whether they're here or not. We'll do that when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Hi, I'm Clint Tillison with...
And I'm Jay Novacek, and we're both with...
United Ag and Turf, the official tractor provider of the Dallas Cowboys.
So, if you need a tractor to bale some hay, a mower to cut some grass, or a gator to get some chores done...
Get a John Deere at United Ag and Turf.
And then, let's get to work.
Hey, Jay, that's my line.
Well, not today.
Get to work with a John Deere tractor package that's just right for you and your budget. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way.
Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
At AT&T, everyone, new and existing customers, get our best deals on every smartphone. Why? Because you deserve it. For turning your living room into your office and your gym. For teaching Grandma how to video call and teaching her again.
It's the button on your left, Nana. Okay, your other left.
It's not complicated. Everyone deserves something new. So AT&T is giving everyone, new and existing customers, our best deals with every unlimited plan on every smartphone, even the latest ones.
AT&T may temporarily slow data speeds if the network is busy. Restrictions and exceptions may apply.
New Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. You deserve it.
I do deserve that.
You deserve decadent flavor without sugar. And a day at the beach without sand getting everywhere. And a relaxing bath that your children don't interrupt.
I deserve all that?
It's really just a visual metaphor for Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. Everything you want, nothing you don't.
A visual metaphor on the radio. I do deserve that.
Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. The zero you deserve is finally here.
Back to the break.
I'm finding this read about Essler. I do know this, though. If you're going to go to the games, you can see things better with Essler lenses. You see every exciting play. You can book an appointment at Essler Experts to find the perfect Essler lens for you. See more, do more, Essler.
Welcome back. It is the final segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Let's talk some salary cap. Last week we got started. We talked about the big names, a lot of the big names. You got your Amari Coopers and your DeMarcus Lawrences, and we kind of got through all of that. This one I think is an interesting little take because it's not a move you have to make, and it wouldn't necessarily, in none of these moves necessarily will save you a ton of money, but they could be bits of money, and I say bits of money. I know that's going to sound weird because we're talking millions of dollars, but it could be money that if you make a few of these moves all added together, it actually could be a significant amount of money for the Cowboys against their cap. So let's talk about the cornerback position. Right now, you got a guy who's going to be entering his second year in Kelvin Joseph. I would say we probably would all agree that he had some moments this year where he flashed, where you thought, he's a pretty good player. That all being said, is he reliable enough for you, whether that be on the field or off the field? Is he reliable enough for you at this point for you to consider cutting either Anthony Brown or Jordan Lewis to save some money?
I'm not trying to hate on Kelvin. I think it's a stretch to say that he even flashed.
Really?
Yes. I I think he got on the field at the end of the season and seemed to hold up pretty well. Like, he played against Arizona, he did all right, had a chance at a pick, and then he got to play in the JV game against the Eagles, and he played like 70 snaps and was fine. I don't know if that's enough to say that he flashed. I'm not down on him at all.
Do you just to clarify that? Do you think he was better, worse, or the same as what you would expect to see from Anthony Brown?
I don't think that it's nearly enough of a sample size to compare to guys that played like 1,000 snaps. I mean, Anthony Brown was out there every week, and Jordan was for the most part as well. This was his most involved season ever. And so you going to say something?
No, go ahead.
Just combining that with, and again, you can hate on AB all you want. You can hate on Jordan all you want. They were serviceable, I would say, at or near replacement level. Some weeks above, some weeks maybe a little bit below, but they were serviceable guys. By NFL standards, they're not making enough money that their contract is like blinking at me. You know, like every year you're like, oof, that is a contract that is not living up to what it needs to be. They are performing right at what you expect for the money the Cowboys gave them. So I don't see a reason to tinker with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to compare anybody, but when you think about Trayvon Diggs in his second year, entering his second year, he got to play a lot more in his rookie year, and you felt really good about him going into the second year based off of what we've seen. But Kelvin Joseph, he didn't give us that because, for whatever the reason, because he wasn't good enough really to beat out Anthony Brown or Jordan Lewis, and of course Diggs. But also when he was there, he did okay. You know, he got kicked out of a game too for like a fight. I mean, like he just, for whatever the reason, he just didn't get a chance to show a lot. And so it's a big offseason for him. I mean, but you said, are you comfortable? And it may be a situation where you have to do it anyways. You're not going to be comfortable. It's like, I guess, the people that bungee jump. I mean, they're going to do it because they feel like they have to, but they're probably not comfortable doing it. But then hopefully it works out. That's what it is. I mean, you might have to cut one of those guys, Lewis or Brown, and say, well, we drafted this guy. He's going to have to play. Doesn't mean you're comfortable.
I'm not going to rely on anyone that I barely remember anything about, you know, like I'm sitting here trying to, there's nothing I can really remember, and I watched every single game. So there was nothing memorable that he did for me to feel comfortable enough to say, oh yeah, let's rely on this guy, on Kelvin Joseph. But at the same time, when I look at the money on Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis, and it's crazy because I would love to have that kind of money, but at the same time, it just looks so little. It's like, okay,
we all have to agree that there's an NFL standard and then there's a real life standard.
You take the zeros off. That's what I found is comfortable. Like, it's $5 million, but if I just look at it as $5, that feels better to me than saying $5 million.
I would faint. I would faint if presented with $5 million. But in the world of the NFL, it's nothing.
But when you look at their money and what the Cowboys would save, I'm just like, it's nothing.
Well, but let's
zeros. I think you might want to take 2 zeros off, right?
What do you mean? Just to make you feel like it just feels more natural to just say 5 versus $5 million. Like for me, just feels a little more relatable.
You have to just make the concession that we're way out of our depth.
Right.
When you're just like, look, this is not our world. We're just talking about it.
And just to be clear, Anthony Brown, if they were to cut him, they would save $5 billion, and that's regardless of if they cut him now or they cut him.
You said billion with a B.
I said $5 million.
Sounded like B to me.
I did not say. I did not. I was not trying to say billion. That's way off.
Yeah.
$5 million. They would save $5 million against the cap, whether it's now or June 1st cut. And Jordan Lewis would save 2.3 if they cut him now, 3.4 million if they cut him as a June 1 cut.
What I would do with the cornerbacks, again, I say this about everything. Like, depth is great. I love having depth. Like, you look at the cornerback chart, maybe the best I've felt about the cornerback depth chart for this team in forever. Like, you've got a superstar, 2 adequate starters, and then 2 highly drafted guys that maybe you're not thrilled about, but you don't feel bad about. I mean, it's about as good as you can ask for, unless you stumble into a Legion
for now
of Boom
and the future,
situation.
right?
Yeah. You take those guys to training camp. If Kelvin Joseph makes a Diggs-like jump, now you got trade bait. Now you have the luxury to cut somebody at roster cuts if you need to. You still save that money. Like, you save that money in September the same way
just
you
doesn't help you in free agency with trying to re-sign your own guys or trying to get other guys.
They
right?
don't give you enough money to really help you anyway. Like, you get more money out of restructuring a bigger contract than you do out of cutting those guys.
Well, that's where I think, it's that whole principle with money, right? Yeah, a dime unto itself is not a lot of money, but you start collecting dimes, and before you know it, you got a significant amount of money. I do think that $5 million is nothing. That might help you re-sign a guy that you want to be able to keep, right? That may be J-Ron Curse, right? So I think it does matter, even though it's not huge money. It's not the $20 million savings. $5 million is significant.
It's not a big enough saving for me to go messing with my depth chart. That's just me.
And that's fair. That's fair.
That's going to come down to the two guys you just mentioned, and Nashawn Wright and Kelvin Joseph. If those guys are ready to make that leap, but do
you know that they're ready until you get to like camp, or even after that? Really?
No. And I don't think you can mess with it. They didn't show you enough things where you could be like, like Diggs showed them enough that they were excited about him. Biotis showed them enough that they thought they could. I think it was a mistake, but whatever. But the rookies played enough. But Kelvin Joseph hasn't done that, and I've said it 100 times. I'll say it again. These next 3 or 4 months are big months for him because his track record has never been about talent. It's about his commitment to where he's at and to put the extra work in there to really say, hey, I'm a part of this. I want to get better and not just live up to my athletic ability. That's why I want to see what he comes back in the offseason. Has he made this big leap? Does his body look better? Is he quicker? Is he taking care of himself, committed to it? If so, he could be really good. But you have to see.
You can't predict this to a certainty, but the AB and Jordan Lewis deals are small enough that they're probably movable too. Like, not for anything crazy, but if Kelvin Joseph is a badass at camp, you could trade one of those guys for a late round pick, which is better than cutting them for nothing. I know you forego the savings, but again, I'm going to restructure Dak. You can restructure Zach Martin. You can do a lot of stuff to free up that money without having to cut those guys.
I haven't looked at all the free agents that are expected to be this year around the NFL, but could there be another guy that's you wouldn't necessarily be upgrading the position and spending a ton of money, but that could provide you some kind of different experience from a veteran guy that maybe it's slightly better than what you got in Anthony Brown? I don't know.
Like a guy that would be available in March? Like somebody else's free agent, you mean?
Yeah, that maybe you're keeping an eye on and you're like, okay, this is doable and he might be slightly better than Anthony Brown. We've seen what Anthony Brown has given us and maybe he just doesn't cut it.
Theoretically, yeah. That could be possible. It would cost you more to sign somebody else's guy than to just keep your own, probably.
It comes down to what Dan Quinn can do. And Dan Quinn, Will McClay, those guys of the players that they've studied and say, hey, J-Ron Curse wasn't with Dan Quinn. He just had played against him and seen him and said, kind of had an eye on him. So, yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Is who's going to be those guys?
We talked about this on the thing we shot with Britt Johnson yesterday. Just like, after seeing that, the pressure's on to do it again. Because, that's a great point. J-Ron Curse isn't even a career Quinn guy. Dan Quinn was like, let's sign him. And he's a beast. And DeMonte Casey was pretty good. And Malik Hooker was pretty good. Carlos Watkins probably doesn't get enough credit for how well he played relative to how much he cost. Go do it again. Because they're not going to give you significantly more funding this year. Yeah. But now we expect these free agents to hit because they did the first year under Quinn. If we go back to the norm where half of these guys get cut and the other half don't really do anything, that's going to be – first of all, it's going to be a bummer, and it's also going to impede this team from improving. They have to do at least as good of a job this year finding those guys as they did last year.
All right, let's flip to the tight end position. Right now, you've got Blake Jarwin. He is, if they were to cut him, they could get $3.8 million back. If it's a June 1 cut, they could get $4.8 million back against their cap. Now, the interesting part about that is you got Dalton Schultz, who will be a free agent, and not to say that you could sign him for that same money, but certainly anything could help. Do you think that, number one, do you think that the Cowboys should make Dalton Schultz a priority as far as a free agent signing? And then number two, would you cut Blake Jarwin for the purposes of re-signing Dalton Schultz?
I would I would start with Schultz. That would be the first thing that if I'm the Cowboys, I make up my mind there. I'm like, do we feel like we need him to be a part of this? And if they're like, yes, we do. He's got to be here. He helps, all the other guys. Then I would try to re-sign him. And then if that happens, then I'm going to let go of Jarwin. And the reason why is because I've always thought they're almost the same player. Mm-hmm. Neither one of them are great blockers. They're a pass catcher. One's got better hands than the other. One can move a little bit better. One's taller, longer, but whatever. They're about the same. So I need a blocker anyways. Mm-hmm. So I don't need both of them to do that and cost that kind of money.
I could be wrong. It's so hard to predict what these guys are worth on the open market. I remember famously I missed the Terrence Williams thing so bad. Like I thought he would get priced out of here, and he didn't. He wound up coming back. So anything's possible. I don't think the Cowboys will be able to compete with whatever Dalton Schultz gets offered if they let him hit free agency, which I assume they will. Like you just look at the free agent list, he's one of the better ones hitting this year, and certainly. Ertz, Graham, Gronkowski, like all those guys are sort of moving out of their prime. Dalton Schultz is entering his prime. I think he's going to get an offer that the Cowboys can't really compete with, and so that's why I would love to keep him around. But I just think like that's a classic case of like we're going to get a third or fourth round comp for a guy that we spent a fourth round pick on. We're going to wish you well. Blake Jarwin has a very similar skill set, was probably going to be our starter before he got hurt in the first place, and we just move on. We just keep the guy that we already gave a small contract to and get a comp pick out of losing Schultz. That would be my guess as to what happens.
Yeah, I agree with Dave. I don't think Schultz would be back on here. And then as for Blake Jarwin, I would be like, I'm good with letting him go, and I've been always a Blake Jarwin fan, but it's not his fault. He's dealt with injuries, and it's unfortunate he hasn't been what you expected him or thought he would be once Jason Witten went away and all that. But you have to keep certain guys. You cannot go out and start cutting people and save money here and there. You need a tight end. You're going to have to address the position regardless, but by cutting him and saving that little amount of money, you're creating a bigger need on an offense that already has plenty of other needs that you're going to need to reinforce through the draft and hopefully some through free agency. So at this point, I'm like, don't touch it. Just leave him on here because you need somebody there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with all that because personally, the way I look at it is I think they're comparable players. I think, quite frankly, if Blake Jarwin had not had the injury, I think he would be having the exact same kind of numbers as what you're seeing, what we saw from Dalton Schultz. I don't think Dalton Schultz, and this is the part that really I don't know. I don't know how other teams look at him. Do they look at him as just the benefactor of the fact that the quarterback, for whatever reason, found some synergy with him, tried to dump it off to him a lot? Because he wasn't really making the kind of plays often that were like, oh my gosh, wow, that was a crazy athletic play. Or like he doesn't really have that thing that jumps out to you that's like, oh my gosh, he's a really great player at the position other than his production, which is great. Like he's catching a lot of balls. But I think if you had Blake Jarwin in the same situation, I think Blake Jarwin probably produces in the same way. And that's where I'm like, so give me the cheaper of the two. And if Blake Jarwin's a cheaper, so be it.
I've been a Jarwin truther since like 2016, so I'm with you on that. I think he can make all the same types of plays. I don't think Dalton gets credit for his athleticism. Like he can make plays downfield. I can go make you a cut up of him making plays down the seam. He had a great catch against Vegas, touchdowns against Atlanta, going down the field. Shouts out to our friends at Spotrac. Like the resources in this department have come so far over the years that I've done this. You can go look at their projection for his next contract is 4 years, $51 million.
Oh, yeah, I ain't paying that.
That's what I'm saying.
That ain't worth it to me.
I don't think the Cowboys will even be able to compete. Honestly, knowing their cap situation and the other things that they've got to get done, I don't think. And so it hasn't paid off so far. Like they haven't gotten what they thought they would out of Jarwin since they signed him. But that's why you do deals in advance. You're like, okay, well, this guy's pretty similar, basically the same tight end, and we've got him locked down for half the value of that contract. Let's just stick with that. I don't think $50 million would be enough to get them a third-round comp pick, but it would probably get them a fourth.
Yeah. So and by the way, good for Dalton Schultz if he can land that contract. I would wish the best for him. But that's just one, when you look at all the priorities for the Cowboys, I just don't know if he would be that far up my priority list when I'm already worried about. If they are actually having conversations about cutting guys like Amari Cooper and Tank Lawrence, then this is way down the priority list. I would not be wanting to cut those guys in favor of trying to get a deal done with Schultz. Just doesn't make sense to me.
Mm-mm.
Completely. And that's I kind of hate these conversations because it makes it sound like I don't think Dalton Schultz is worth it. That's not true at all. I think he's had a fantastic 2 years. Fully in favor of him. Go get the bag, dude. I just don't think it's
and there's always
realistic
those guys
that it's here.
That you're like, thank you for your time and what you did here, but it's time to move on and go get more money somewhere else.
That's the model that they've built. You can take issue with it if you want to, but you identify the guys that you need, and not everybody's going to fit within that money constraint. And you say, well, we're going to get a draft pick for you, and we appreciate your time here, and best of luck.
I mean,
hopefully it's not with the Eagles.
It starts out like there's always
Would you be scared?
one domino.
Not scared, just wouldn't want to have to root against him. Sorry. What?
No, it's all about Amari Cooper.
Yep.
I mean, he starts every conversation.
That's where you get your money, right?
Yeah, well, that's how you get your money, but also like Cooper and Lamb and then a pretty good third receiver, whoever it is. All of that helped open up the middle for Schultz.
Mm-hmm.
You don't put if Cooper's not there, and then it's just Lamb, and then no one else that they're really scared of. So then they double team him, and then I mean he had a hard time sometimes getting open when he was the second guy.
Yeah.
So now he's going to be the first guy, and then I mean the worst thing you could do is pay $12.5, $13 million for Schultz to keep him. But you did that. You had to cut Cooper, and then now all of a sudden you're like, why is Schultz not really that good? Because he's one of the focal points, and then it's like this other Cedric Wilson's not getting open.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know. I mean, it all starts with Amari, and I just think that would be the dumbest thing in the world to cut Amari Cooper. I really do.
Preach.
Because they're going to do it so they can keep Randy. But was the defense awesome last year? I mean, not just
relative
turnovers, not
That's
just
the
turnovers.
Problem. Yeah.
Was the defense awesome? And I don't think it was awesome. I think it was good at times. It wasn't awesome. So you're going to keep
for what the Cowboys had given you in years.
It doesn't matter.
I'd be like, they were pretty awesome.
Well, that's the thing. It's a relative comparison, right? Compared to the year before, they were awesome. But if you just look at them in the pantheon of all the teams in the NFL and their defenses, I don't know that it was awesome. It was good, and it certainly was better.
So you're going to keep Randy Gregory so you can keep that same, defense, but you're going to lose Amari in this. I'm not doing that. I'm keeping Amari. I'm keeping this offense to be great. I need something to be great. And then I'll figure out the defense and let Dan Quinn figure out the defense. Yeah. He's getting paid a lot more than he did last year. Figure it out even again.
The frustrating thing is that they could accomplish both of those goals. They could push Amari's money back to free up cap space to keep other guys, and they just haven't shown a willingness to touch his money. They'll touch everybody else's money.
Yeah.
Like guys who, in my opinion, are not living up to their contract nearly as well as Amari are, but they don't want to touch his money.
And I said that last week on the show, and I said, the way to do that with Amari and give him $20 million, and now you're only going to count about 10 or 12 this year, but that does push it up almost 28, $30 million next year. So that doesn't necessarily make sense. I mean, you're hoping that the NFL TV contracts come in and push the cap up and all that kind of stuff. But
I have a question, and I don't know many things about when it comes to contracts and things like that. But when you're talking about restructuring a player's contract, is that something that the player and his agent have to be in agreement with prior, or the Cowboys can just do it?
In some cases.
Because it's within
some cases.
The player has to, if you're going to cut his contract, like we're going to pay you less money, that is a separate negotiation. Mm-hmm. It really doesn't happen that often because players are like, no, screw you,
cut me. Yeah.
But the Cowboys build their contracts. When I say restructure, you can convert their salary into a bonus, which they immediately get. It reduces their cap hit and pushes it into the future, which makes them harder to cut later, but gives you instant relief. And you can do that with a click of a button. Mm-hmm. It's usually designed into these contracts where you email the agent and say, we're triggering this today. We're not asking. We're just doing it.
Letting you know.
Amari's check for $12 million will be in the mail by the end of the week.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say Jeff Kavanaugh tweeted this, but someone tweeted this. You responded to it, where basically if they triggered all those contracts right now, they'd have like $66 million available to them, which you know, I mean, and a lot of it, we talked about it last week, a lot of it is stuff where you're like, I mean, yeah, if you push some money forward, really the only contract you'd probably be really concerned about doing that with is Zeke, just because, you know, is that the amount of money you're paying to a running back with that level of production, is that worth going through the whole contract? All the others, you could probably make a case to say, I don't know if I'm really against them pushing money forward on these, because a lot of them are going to come due anyway in the next year or two.
I would be nervous about doing it with Tank.
How many years he got left on his deal? 2? 3?
2 or 3. 2 or 3. And the injury history makes you nervous. I mean, you could, but
I don't think it kills you, I guess, is the point I'm making.
You just have to wait. You don't think it kills you until he tears his labrum in August, and so you're not getting anything for a guy that is killing your cap now and can't be cut later. I mean, you got to weigh all that stuff.
Do you think he's at a point now where you're worried every year is going to be an injury for Tank?
I hate to dog the guy, but the results are what they are. I mean, yes. Yeah. He has, and it's a testament to his toughness that he hasn't missed more time, honestly, because like he played all of 18 with like his shoulder just screwed up, you know, like that. I mean, he's played through a lot of stuff, and he's also missed time. But yes, the accumulation of injuries is significant. That it would always be in the back of my mind.
Yeah, that one makes more sense to part ways with than Amari to me, just because.
Especially if you're going to re-sign Randy, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you re-sign Randy and then whatever you do with Micah, whatever that is.
That I could see that being. I won't be surprised if the Cowboys tried to talk to Tank and his people about a pay cut, and I won't be surprised at all if Tank and his people are like, "No,
I'm good.
Be just fine hitting the open market if that's what you want to do."
Right? Yeah. So I think that's probably the way it goes. I use the term "fun" facetiously, but like I think it's gonna get a little chaotic here over the next like 5-6 weeks.
It's crazy because it feels like it was just yesterday when we were having the press conference and Tank signing that contract and all that. It's like
NFL changes fast.
Life comes at you fast, man.
It changes really fast. All right, appreciate you guys joining us. We had a good conversation today. Next week we'll get back to you, have more conversation. Until then, for Nick Eatman, Dave Hellman, Amber Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com. Radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!